Hi, welcome back to another episode here on Creepy with Coffee. I'm Kim, your storyteller. Tonight we bring you a terrifying first-hand experience, one that took place in a seemingly ordinary hotel in Cameroon Highlands. What started as a peaceful vacation turned into a night of pure horror, strange noises, locked doors, and an ominous message left behind. Was it just a coincidence, or was it something trying to communicate with them? Like usual, before we get on to the story, please help me like, share, and also subscribe to the channel. That would help us get to a lot more people, and hopefully we will get more stories. If you have done so, thank you. And now let's get on to the story.
This is Creepy with Coffee.
This happened in 2018. My wife, my sister, my brother-in-law, and I decided to take a short vacation to Tanah Rata, Cameroon Highlands. For those who probably have heard about this place or some stories about this place, do share it with us. We arrived in the late afternoon, around 5 p.m. After stopping by a cafe for tea, we browsed online for a place to stay. We booked several hotels but had trouble finding one that met my sister's high standard. She was quite particular about cleanliness and comfort. I'm sure a lot of us do as well. So we kept rejecting options one by one. Eventually, we reached a grand-looking hotel at around 7:20 p.m. The receptionist informed us that only 2 apartments were available. So a staff member took us to inspect them before we made a decision. As we drove towards the apartment block, an uneasy feeling crept in. The building was set apart from the main lobby, surrounded by tall trees. The road leading there was eerily quiet. Still, we settled for an apartment with 2 bedrooms and proceeded to check in. On the way back to the lobby to park our car, my wife just casually asked the hotel staff, "Hey Ade, is this place dirty?" The young worker laughed and replied, "If you are asking about that car, no, unless you think about it. If you think about them, they'll come." We chuckled at his joke, not taking it seriously. That was until we returned from dinner later that night. Around midnight, we finally got back to our apartment. As soon as we stepped inside, I rushed to the bathroom. I was bursting to pee. In my hurry, I didn't even close the door properly, just push it slightly shut. Then, as I was midstream, the door slammed shut on its own. I froze. Then I was thinking, maybe it was just the wind. But when I finished and tried to open it, the door wouldn't budge. Panic set in. I twisted the knob, pulled on it, banged on the door, and shouted for my wife. I could even hear the TV playing in the living room, meaning they were just right outside, but no one responded. After a full 10 minutes, I finally calmed myself, took a deep breath, and began to recite prayers under my breath. The moment I finished, the door unlocked on its own. I stormed into the living room, rattled. My wife looked at me and asked, "What took you so long?" "I was locked in the bathroom," I exclaimed. "Didn't you hear me calling?" She frowned and said, "No, we didn't hear anything." Chills ran down my spine. The bathroom was close enough to the living room that they should have heard me, but they say they have not heard a single sound. Curious, I pulled out my phone and did a quick Google search. Haunted hotels in Cameroon Highlands. And probably you have guessed it, there it was. The very hotel we were staying at listed as one of the most haunted places in the area. I showed my wife and she paled. The mood instantly shifted. That night, as we settled into bed, the room felt unbearably warm despite the cool Highland air. My wife went to shower first, followed by me. Afterward, we turned off the lights and lay down, trying to sleep, not thinking too much about what we have just read on Google earlier on. That's when we heard it. The sound came from our bedroom window. I bolted upright and pulled the curtains aside. Our room was on the 3rd floor. Nothing could be that tall to actually reach us. Well, when I pulled the curtain aside, there was nothing out there. My wife yanked the blanket over her head and told me, "Go back to sleep," trying to shake the feeling of dread creeping over me. But just as we began drifting off, she jolted awake and asked, "Did you hear that?" I asked groggily and said, "Hear what?" My wife said, "Someone called your name. I heard a woman call your name." I hadn't heard anything. I told her she was just imagining things, but deep inside, I wasn't so sure. Then came the footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps, starting from the bathroom, making their way towards our bed. I held my breath, trying to ignore it. And suddenly, thump! Something slapped my pillow hard. My head jerked up instantly. I scanned the room, but obviously there was nothing there. My wife and I stared at each other in terror, and before we could react, the footsteps returned. This time, it seemed like they stopped at the foot of our bed. And at that particular time, we have never felt anything like this before. We both felt the weight of something unseen pressing down on our feet, as if someone had just sat at the edge of our bed. I had enough. I shouted, "Leave us alone! Go haunt someone else, you piece of sh—" I jumped up and recited the call to prayer in a loud, firm voice. After when I'm done, silence. The air in the room seemed to settle. Her presence was gone. We finally managed to fall asleep, though uneasily. The next morning, we woke up early, desperate for fresh air. My wife went to the kitchen to make coffee while I stepped onto the balcony. That's when I noticed something odd. My sister's bedroom door was wide open. Confused, my wife peeked inside and gasped. "Where did they go? Did they go out? They left us?" I shrugged and said, "Maybe they went for a walk." Then we decided to sit down for coffee. Probably they will come back in a bit. Minutes later, we heard footsteps approaching, and my sister knocked on our door, yawning and stretching in her pajamas. My wife asked, "You back? Where did you go so early?" My sister frowned and said, "What do you mean? I just woke up." "But your door was wide open and the room was empty," I said. She looked confused and said, "No, I've been inside the whole time." Goosebumps immediately, meaning to say that something was standing, covering our eyes, not allowing us to see my sister in her bedroom. And later that morning, as I went to shower, something even more disturbing happened. With the steam fogging up the bathroom mirror, I noticed faint letters forming on the glass. But it's not a letter that I know how to read. It's a Chinese character. A message. I rushed out and called my wife and sister. "Did either of you write this?" They shook their heads and said, "No, we didn't do anything, or we didn't write anything in the bathroom." As everybody gathered, In the bathroom, my sister snapped a picture. As she did, we heard a deep, raspy breath, followed by a sudden gust of wind that blew through the bathroom. My brother-in-law turned pale and immediately said, "Pack your bags and we are leaving now." We grabbed our things and checked out immediately. Whatever plan that we had was out of the window. Later, we showed a picture of the writing to a local Chinese man, asking if he could read it. He was looking at it thoroughly and then looked at us grimly and says, "The writing says, 'Help me.'" Well, that's all the story for tonight. So do you think it's a series of coincidences, or did something or someone desperately trying to reach out from the other side? If it's you in the hotel room, or you are the one who saw the writing on the mirror, what would you do? Would you still stay, or would you pack your bags and leave immediately? Let me know down below in the comment section. Once again, for those who have yet to do so, please help me like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Once again, this is Kim, and you're listening to Creepy with Coffee. Until the next episode.